Okay, welcome everyone. Let me share my screen real quick. There we go. Oh, so I hope everyone's having a wonderful week. It's Wednesday. We're halfway through. Hallelujah. Uh, in case you missed Monday, it's been snowy here in Texas where I'm at, so we just have icy roads. So I am actually working from home today instead of at the office. And so all bear with me because all the regular equipment and things I normally use are there, and so I'm actually using this mouse here. I realized the button is not clicking very well, so just be patient with me today. I appreciate it. But we have that aside, we're going to have a great session today. I'm really looking forward to sharing all about unlocking series potential with you and Scrivener. Well, let me pull up my chat here so I can see how everyone's doing. Keeps disappearing. Anytime I share my screen, it disappears on me. Let me see if I can pull it up. Come on. There we go. Oh, Happy New Year, Luke. Thank you. I appreciate that. I know it's this is our second webinar of the year. To me, it feels like New Year just went so fast and everything just happened so quickly. I've kind of even forgotten that we're in the new year. I'm already like feeling like I'm into like halfway into 2026 already. Joshua says we got 26 inches of snow here in Boston. Wow, that's a lot. So we only got 5 inches here. I know that doesn't sound like much, especially compared to some like 12 inches, but they don't do anything here in Texas when it snows. And so some people drive on it and just compacts that down and it gets warm a little bit and then melts it and just turns into solid ice. So I haven't risked it. I'm like, no way. I'm not gonna do it. Once it melts. Monday, I'm looking forward to Monday. It's supposed to be 63 degrees. It should melt all that snow out of here, at least for me. But I feel for you, all of you who are suffering in the snow more than usual, that's for sure. Samir here, joining from London. Welcome. Glad to have you. Good to see some familiar names. George, Gregory, welcome. Hello from the bitter cold of Arkansas. Happy New Year. Excellent. 20 inches in May. Wow. This has just been a nutty year for weather. And it's funny because let me tell you this. I know we're still talking about weather. This is way off topic, but this Christmas, at least in my area here in northern Texas, it was 80 degrees. Not kidding, almost every single day. I thought, man, I thought it was gonna be a cold Christmas, and it was really hot. And now here we are. We finally got our cold weather. Got the snow that my kids were hoping and praying for. Okay, great. Greetings from Germany. Oh, so many wonderful people here. We do have a fairly large group today, so bear with me. I do have Ruth here today to help us out. You may have seen her message there at the beginning. If not, she'll reach out to you again. But if you could put any questions and things for in the Q&A for her, that would make her life so much easier. While we're waiting just a minute more for people to get in, I wanted to ask a quick question to kind of get the ball rolling here, if I can find it. But what challenges have you faced when managing multiple book projects or managing a series? And this can be in Scrivener, this can be out of Scrivener. What are the challenges you are facing with your series? Let me know. So Karen says timeline. Emmy Browning says figuring out a book Bible. Okay, so like a book Bible or series Bible of some, basically just keeping everything in one place. Michael asks where to break story. Okay. Fanny says character webs. Okay. Michael says multitasking is like chasing squirrels. Series Bible for sure. Great. Okay, this is good. I have a self-published book that I'd like to break into 2 books. Okay. Make sure everything is coherent across books. No backstory included in book 3. That should have been in book 1. Keeping track of characters and places and clues. Okay, great. Adding the books to Scrivener. Okay, gotcha. So maybe taking existing content outside of Scrivener, bringing it into Scrivener um, or even just like adding a second book if you already have everything in Scrivener. How do I add another book to another project? That could also be it. CC's asking, first time attempting a series, so I'm a newbie here to learn. Great, that's excellent. Moving from one book to another, too many chapters. So I'm seeing there are some people who are on the side where it's like technical issues, like how do I actually make this? How do I keep track of all my information? I create a series Bible or a book Bible, right? I see other people saying, more like craft based. Like how do I know when to break my book into a from book 1 to book 2 or book 2 to book 3, etc. And so there's a lot of different things. We're going to focus more on the technical side of things today, but I like some of these craft questions because these are questions that I've had and concerns I've had, and And I have considered them and I've addressed them myself. So that might be something I might look into doing for future sessions. If you're more interested in the craft side of it, let me know. I'll see if I can start putting it. Send me an email too about that, and I will get you guys a craft-based one that's more focused on this. Today, we're going to look at how we can actually set this up in Scrivener, how you might approach having multiple books in a series in Scrivener. There's a couple different ways you can do it, but I think you're going to like it. I think you're going to love it. Okay, I think we've given everyone enough time to get started here. Let me, I'm gonna put the chat away for a minute. If you can, if you have specific questions, please throw those in the Q&A for me at the end as well. We'll get to those about 15 minutes after. But let's get the ball rolling here and get the party started. Okay, so welcome everyone to our January 2026 Scrivener webinar series brought to you by the creative minds behind Scrivener and Scapple, Literature and Latte. I'm Oliver Evanson, your host today, bringing you insights drawn from over 15 years of writing and Scrivener expertise. Now, whether you're just starting or you're a seasoned author, our webinars are designed with your needs in mind. And today we will be exploring how to unlock series potential by authoring multiple books in Scrivener. And don't forget, we do have a member of our dedicated technical support team standing by ready to tackle any technical issues and to answer your questions throughout this session. I have Ruth here. She's very knowledgeable. She's amazing. I love having her here. And if you encounter any issues, please reach out to her in the Q&A. That'll be the best way to reach her. If she sees you put something in the chat and she catches it in time, she'll probably say, put it in the Q&A for her. But yeah, she'll keep an eye on the chat, but mostly the Q&A is going to be the best place you can reach her and she can get those questions answered, especially if you're having a problem, can't see something or something's going on. Okay, now for those who wish to revisit today's session or share it with your fellow writers, this webinar is being recorded and you can find the replay on my YouTube channel tomorrow. Monday's session is up in case you're wondering, and you can also enjoy it ad-free next week in the Literature and Latte webinar library. So links will be provided for that shortly. Okay, well, let us get the ball rolling here. Okay, I should make sure, can everybody see the screen before I get too far? Oh, thank you, Ruth, for dropping all those links in there. That's excellent. Okay, perfect. Okay. So for those, a little bit about me, I'm Oliver Evanson, and for the last 15 years, I've dedicated my life to helping writers turn their creative ideas into finished stories. And that journey led me to become the Director of Marketing and Outreach for Literature and Latte at the creators of Scrivener. Now, every day, I have the privilege of helping authors like you build a writing process that gets results. Now, I love connecting with other like-minded writers. If you'd like to connect with me, send me an email. I love getting your guys' emails. I get to them as quick as I can. Bear in mind, I get a lot. But if you can also join one of my email lists. I frequently send out valuable tips and techniques to help you become a better writer. And of course, all subscribers receive a free copy of my starter novel Scrivener template. So without further ado, let's dive into our schedule. Okay, so now that we're better acquainted, let's spend just a couple minutes outlining the schedule for today's session. To begin, I'll provide a short introduction to our topic and what you should expect to learn today. Then we'll move straight into our training where I'll cover how to write a series in Scrivener, get really into the technical aspects of it, how it works, how to set it up, best practices, and so forth. And to wrap up, I'll provide you all with a bunch of free resources you can utilize to deepen your understanding of Scrivener and improve your writing skills. I'll also try to leave ample time at the end for Q&A, where I'll do my best to answer as many of your questions as possible, whether they're on topic or off topic. We'll get your questions answered, or if we can't get to them in the session today, don't worry. We'll make sure you have those emails and those resources you need to get the help that you need. Okay, so there's nothing I despise more than waiting 45 minutes before the presenter even gets to his training, if he even gets to it at all. So that's why I like to establish clear expectations for what I promise to teach in today's session. So first off, you can expect to learn 3 skills today. I promise to teach you how to use the binder to structure a book series in Scrivener. Okay. Number 2, how to use 2 powerful tools to research, write, and edit your series in Scrivener efficiently. And I saw some questions about the series Bible, so we might look at that a little bit too. I can kind of impromptu put that one in there. And last but not least, how to write a book series in a single project so you can keep your series and research all in one convenient location, which I guess that would kind of qualify as our series Bible or a book Bible, however you want to look at it. That series of documents all put together in one place. And today you should leave confident to get started writing your next series in Scrivener. Let's begin. Okay, so how do you go about structuring a series in Scrivener? Should I use one or more projects? One project or more? What happens if I'm writing a trilogy or a series with 5, 10, or maybe even 15 or more books? Well, let's find out. In the typical project, you have the manuscript folder here that contains the entire text of your book. However, we're going to be using it a little bit differently. We're going to use the manuscript folder as the title of our series. And hopefully you can kind of see it right there in my presentation. Right there, we have the Affinity Saga. And that's the name of my series. And we're going to switch that. That's what used to be my manuscript or draft folder. And the remaining question is, how many books will my project include? Well, the answer is quite simple. As many books as you so please. So if you're starting with one book and you aren't sure with how many are in your series, you can still remain flexible. You can add or remove a book folders as needed, allowing you to adjust your structure seamlessly throughout your writing process. Okay. Now, on the other hand, I do want to point out that it is perfectly reasonable to have one book per project when writing a series in Scrivener. That's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Some projects can get so massive that it can be overwhelming, and having a separate project document for each book in the series may be more convenient for you. Maybe it's less distracting. However, I personally recommend keeping all the books in the series in a single project, as it allows you to easily reference and cross-reference between books. It allows you to keep everything in one place. I've just found the more spread out I am, the more challenging it is for me personally. But you have to figure out what works for you as for your writing process. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how it works. Let's get started. Okay, bear with me here. Zoom is okay. Share. Boom. Okay. There we go. So now we're going to go ahead and open up Scrivener. Now, whether you're on a Mac, PC, it should be relevant here. Everything we're covering today is going to work across both platforms. Let's open up Scrivener. Oh, let's minimize this guy here. And when you first open the Scrivener, you're probably going to see this getting started section here. I'm assuming most of you know how to set up and create your project, but let's go ahead and find our fiction project here. We can go with novel with parts. I also have my free starter novel template right here that we could also use as well. But for starters, let's just go ahead and set up a fiction novel, because I'm going to assume most of you, that's where you're going to be starting with just a novel right here. Okay. Now, if you're doing nonfiction, you can use a nonfiction project. It'll work very similarly. Okay. So what we'll do, we need to save it, give it a name real quick. I'm going to save it under Scrivener Projects. And we're going to call this Project Titan. You know, any name here doesn't matter. The more specific you can be, the better. I encourage you to always be specific. Don't give vague names. You can always change this later if you need to. And we're going to save it in Documents, Scrivener Projects, and then right there, Project Titan. Okay, there we go. Let me move this little zoom thing out of the way here. There we go. Sorry. Okay, let's make that a little bit bigger. You'll see that. Let me make sure we're still looking good with the screen share here. Yep, still looking good. Okay. So right now, when we first start out with the fiction template here, I like to make some quick changes, remove some things I'm not going to use. This novel format tells me about this template, what it is, how to use it. I typically read through that once, maybe even just skim through it, and then I can go ahead and trash that. Okay. Remember, anything that's currently in this project right now, when you first create it, can be created again or in a new project. So I don't have any need to keep it. I can go ahead and delete it if I'm not going to use it. Same with like this sample output here. This just shows me what a manuscript might look like when I export it out as a PDF, as a standard manuscript format, or a paperback novel. I'm going to go ahead and right click that and move that to trash as well. Okay. And I just like to clean things up a bit to make things look really, really simple. Okay. So we have here, oh, come on, there we go. Sorry, my mouse is freaking out on me. We're going to go to characters and drag that into our research folder. Same with places, research folder. Front matter, I don't typically need that right at the beginning either. That's just our title pages and things like that. We have our notes as well. Drop it in like that. And there we go. And now we have what I call my 4 key folders. These are the 4 folders I'm always using. You'll find the manuscript, research, and trash folder in every single project. They always are there. The only one that's not always there is the template sheets. It typically is, but in the blank project, for example, it is not. But these are the 4 key folders that I'm using constantly in Scrivener. They're my absolute favorite folders. Okay. Now, the first thing I need to do when structuring my series is set up my manuscript folder now as a series folder instead of a manuscript folder. And that's the beauty of Scrivener. You can just decide to call it a series folder, and guess what? It becomes a series folder. Let's do it. So right now, I'm going to keep this. I'm not going to use specific names. Normally, I would use very specific names, but just for the sake of simplicity, let's keep it as a series folder. Okay. Now, inside of that series folder, we get to decide how many books we're going to have. Okay. I'm going to open it up. Let's change this chapter to book 1. Okay. And then I could create another folder if I wanted. Oops, create 2. This mouse. Book 2. And then book 3, and so on and so on. And you can see how quickly and easily I could change, I could add as many books here as I want to. Now, typically, I'd encourage you to just, if unless you have like a 5-book series planner, you know precisely what you have to do. I don't typically go ahead and put in a bunch of books here because it creates unnecessary clutter. But if you have a good idea of what your names are and what they should be, and what what they're going to be, you can definitely go ahead and put those in here if you like. Now we got book 1, book 2, book 3. We can open up book 1 here. This is now, we're actually going to add another folder here, bottom left corner, a chapter, like so. We're going to drag that in there. Now you could have chapters. Let's say you also you do parts as well. Part 1. This could be chapter 1. This is just to show you the hierarchical scheme way how Scrivener is seeing this and how we can kind of visualize this being part 1, chapter 1. This could be scene 1, right? And then I could create another document, hit return, create another document, do scene 2, right? And so on and on and on it could go, right? And I could come back out of here, create another chapter, go on and go on, and then create another part. And that's how that hierarchical, if I could say that word, structure would work, right? We just break those down into their separate entities, and there we go. We've got a book folder, part folder, chapter folder, and scenes. Okay. And that's how we would structure our series for book 1, book 2, book 3 inside of Scrivener. Now, the choice is now up to you. How many books do you want to have? You can have as many as you want. How many chapters you want to have? How many parts you want to have? You just have to create the folders, give it a name, and do it. Now, once you've gotten really familiar with this, I highly recommend you start giving more specific names. Let's take, for example, let's go to my recent projects here, and let's go to, where is it? Looks like I have to alter and the amulet. There it is, right there. Okay, there we go. Let's go to our binder here. This a little bit too. Okay, and you can see right here, if we kind of close things up a little bit. There we go. Same idea. So for this time, we have our manuscript folder right here. This is the Affinity Saga. So I gave it a very specific name, right? We open that up. We have draft 6 of Mark of the Shadow. And I chose to use a identifier there because of how I keep track of my drafts in my scrap folder. Okay. So this is draft 6 we're working on here. You can see I've got all the different parts. This is the prologue. This is this is part 1. And inside of part 1, I have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And this was a specific thing. So I have multiple parts. Instead of I used to have like 4 parts. I changed it into 12 different parts because I like to break it down into small chunks. And especially with the way people feel like they're reading smaller and smaller content, right? I felt like this might be more fun if I could say, hey, I've read part 1 already, and it's like 3 chapters, right? But that's how I broke it down here. You can see I have chapter 1 and have scenes inside of it. And for each one, I've kind of given very specific information. This is chapter 1 here, and this is scene 1. It kind of tells me about what's going on inside of it. And because I'm really familiar with the structure of my project, now I can just look at my binder here and kind of know what's going on. I already know the structure. Okay, I'm really familiar with it. And so I can just look at here and say, I know this is scene 1, scene 2. This is what's happening. This is a meeting with King Richard in scene 1. This is a warning from Tolzer in scene 2. And I like to do it like this. This is the main reason why. If for some reason I decide I want to move scene 2 up to scene 1 position, or I want to change chapter 1 to chapter 2, etc., I can move things around without having to come here and change the name every single time. Okay. So let's take, for example, going back to Project Titan here, right? And we have part 1, part 2. There's scene 1. I moved up scene 2 here. Oops, do that quite right. I'd have to come here and change that name every time I make a movement, a structural change. So that's why I prefer not to use structural names like numbering like this. I like to have actual names and things because I can just move things around without having to constantly change stuff. Okay. Well, perfect. That's how we structure the series in Scrivener. basic, simple, to the point. We'll look at more about compiling and everything else and how that might work in just a second, but that's the gist of it. That's how you get started with it. So hopefully that gets you where you need to go in terms of getting started with your series in Scrivener. Now I'm going to stop sharing for a second. I'm going to switch back to the presentation here. There we go. Okay, excellent. Oops, I got to get my notes back up here for me. Okay, next we're going to talk about researching, writing, and editing your series. So here we have a couple tools. We're going to look at the quick reference tool and scribbing. Oops, we went too far. There we go. Now, when researching, writing, and editing a book or a series, we have numerous tools available at our disposal in Scrivener. However, I wanted to highlight two more underrated tools that have become exceptionally powerful for large profit projects. Specifically, if you have multiple monitors too. If you have multiple monitors, this is going to be really great, especially for the quick reference windows. The scrivening's views, it's fine on a single monitor, but multiple monitors, quick reference views, quick reference windows are excellent. Okay. So here we go. Right, okay. So quick reference windows allow you to keep important research or reference documents accessible while writing without having to switch back and forth between different windows. You can even have multiple quick reference windows open at once, making it really easy to refer to different sources as needed. Now, these windows are particularly beneficial if you're accustomed to using multiple screens or spaces on your Mac or PC. And even more exciting, they have fully functional operational editors and an attached mini inspector. So if you're familiar with the inspector, all your inspector tools are there, and you can actually even just type in and edit them or write in them if you want to. It's just the same as having like your editor, but outside of the main part of Scrivener. And the second we have is Scrivening's view. Now, this one, I feel like sometimes we moved away from Word because, it was a pain to use, right? But Scrivening view kind of takes us back to that view of Word where we can view multiple documents as one fluid document. The difference is that it allows you to edit multiple documents in any order you like. So you can select a bunch of different text files, scenes or chapters, so forth, and have them all viewed as one fluid document. Or you can view the entire manuscript or book as one fluid document. So in this way, you can write in small chunks and then combine them in any way you like to see how they work together. Now, common usage is to write lots of small subsections with a folder and then collectively represent them as a chapter. By clicking the folder, they can all then be edited together in a scrivening session to see how the chapter fits together as a whole. Now, one of my favorite things about this is it has a little quick navigation tool there. I'm going to show you how that works. So if you wanted, you could literally just turn off the binder and just navigate in Scrivenings using that tool. So let's take a look at these two awesome tools and how they work. Okay, let's see. That's not the one. That's the one I want. There we go. Okay. So quick reference windows are really easy to pull up. There's a couple of different ways we can do it. The easiest way is just to click on a document and hit the space bar. That's it. There you go. I've opened up a quick reference window, and that's I memorized that one almost immediately upon getting Scrivener. I accidentally pressed it one time, I think, and it just popped up. No problem. But there we go. We can see we have scene one here, and if I were to type in it, it's just like typing in the main editor. So if I can have this in other, I can put this in other monitors. I can put it wherever I need to go. It can be right there. If I want to see my inspector right here, right now we're just set to editor only. I can see my synopsis right here. I could write my synopsis, right? I could see the picture, if there's any pictures associated with this one, any notes associated with this document. I could look at keywords, bookmarks, etc., even my custom metadata and comments and footnotes if I have any. Okay, so it's all available right there in the window. You can see we have our formatting toolbar here right at the top. It's super handy, and like I said, you can have more than one open. If I wanted to open up some research here, I wish I had a research folder. Let's go ahead and just hit return and create a sketch. I can hit the spacebar again, pull out the sketch, and I can have these now. This can get pretty crowded on a single monitor like this, right here. But if I had, you can imagine if I had multiple monitors open up, I could have one over here in this monitor, one over there in that monitor, and then my actual writing here right in the center. Or I could just make them all small on one monitor if I have a fairly big screen. So up to you, but I find this to be a really powerful tool. Now, what you can do too as well, you can also right click and let's see if I can find it here. I don't use this one as much, but there is an option here to open right there as quick reference. So that's another way you can also open up the quick reference window is click open as quick reference and boom, there it is. But I found easiest way, click the document, hit the space bar, and you're in. Okay, second one we're going to look at is scrivenings mode. Now, this scrivenings mode looks much better in a document that has some actual text in it. In this case, if we went over to scrivenings right now, we go to edit, or sorry, view scrivenings here. We're just going to see that one little thing I wrote and all the different documents. You can see here as I click inside, it does move around the structure of my project. This is part one, this is chapter one, this is scene one, and this is scene two, right? But let's look at it over here real quick. We're going to look at the whole book, right? So this is the whole saga. If I click that, I can see the whole saga in Scrivenings view by going to view Scrivenings. It'll tell me how many words I've got right now. Most of my draft is not put in here yet. It hasn't been written yet for this draft, so we're rewriting it. So it's only 30,000 words right now. But if we went to book one here, we could click book one. Oops, gotta love this. Let's disable and app for now. Okay, we've got these right here. Let's make this smaller too so we can see this. Okay, so we can see everything inside here. If I scroll down here all the way through, we got all 29,000 words, so on words, or 31,000 words here. Okay, and it does take me through the manuscript chapter by chapter. Now it's harder to see because we don't have any titles or things written up here, but it's all there. Okay, what we can do to navigate this without the binder, let me show you. I'm going to turn off my binder for a second. I'm going to hide this. Right over here in this corner, maybe you can see that. Let me see if I can zoom in. Nope, it's not going to work. Okay, we can click these three little bars. They're kind of tiny. And then we can actually navigate to anywhere we want in our book here. Okay, in this case, we had, for Scrivening View, we just had the draft 6 selected, right? So we're only going to be able to navigate through draft 6. If I did the whole book in Scrivening View like this, I'd have access to everything. Okay, there they are right there. Okay, so kind of cool. I love that little tool. Oftentimes I'll just hide the binder and I'll turn off the inspector and just kind of work in here and just flip around, jump around like this. I love this. Okay, so super handy, super nice to use, especially if you're looking at a whole manuscript and you want to quickly jump around and move around very quickly. Let's see if there's anything else I want to do. Another thing we could do in Scrivenings view, if you want to make this a little more legible, we can go to view and we can also turn on, let's see if I can find it. You know what? Let's go to help. And let's search show. There we go. Come on. Show titles in Scrivenings. There it is right there. Gotta spell it right. So under view, text editing, show titles in Scrivening, we can do that. And then we'll see the titles for each chapter, okay, and part. So there's the draft 6, Mark of the Shadow, prologue. It's also giving me the names of the scenes. Okay, if I wanted to turn it off, I believe I can. Let's go to view, text editing, only show titles for folders. And there we go. Now we're just seeing the chapter folders, not the scene names. So there is the Dust Lover, Either to the Dust Lover. Oh, okay, so it's also showing us parts. So any folder that has a that is like a part or a chapter is going to show up here. And that just makes it a little bit more legible so I can kind of keep track of where I am when I'm moving around in this view. There's the Champion of Danon. And of course, I can also see those here, right here. And if I want to turn that off, once again, we go to View, Text Editing, and we just turn it off. It's gone, just back to that default view. You'll notice it does replace the little dashed lines here. These dashed lines represent a break in the structure of your project. So in this case, it was draft 6, Mark of the Shadow, the prologue, and then the scene Caius is portrayed. Very good. Okay, looking good here. I just want to make sure I got everything I wanted to cover here. Yes. One more thing I want to talk about with Scrivenings is that you don't have to do just this linear view. So for example, let's say I wanted to see how the prologue worked with just scene 2, or no, not scene 2, chapter 2 here. Okay. Where let's say I just remove chapter 1 altogether, and we just jump straight into chapter 2. I could actually select that. I'll hold down my shift or my control or my command key and click the other one like so. Okay. And now if I scroll down, you see it has multiple selection now. I'm looking at all of the prologue. It's pretty long. Let's see if I missed it. Yeah, I think I missed it. So this is where I might be good to turn on my titles here. There it is right there. I can see how these two transition here from Caius is betrayed prologue to the scene is meeting with King Richard. Oh, it's not even King Richard anymore. Huh, it's King Rested now. Change the name. There we go. So you can see how we can select them. We can select multiple. I could do both chapters here and this one all together. Okay. And see them just like that. If I click my little quick view, you can see I can toggle between them very quickly, just like that. Okay. So I find that really handy. So it's not just one, or like you're not just limited to one view. In Microsoft Word, you just see the linear view and that's it. That's all you get. But at least here in Scrivener, I can jump around and break. I can look at different things together. I can even look from book 1 to book 4 if I wanted to, and see and have two different documents pulled up or multiple documents pulled up from each and look at them together. And it's not just this view. I can look at it in the corkboard view. I can look at it in the outliner view. And this is really powerful because now I can see all the different attributes or characteristics of this specific of these specific scenes I've selected and see what's going on with them from a technical viewpoint here, from a plotting viewpoint here, or from a deep dive into the text itself and how the two texts, all three texts work together. Okay, so pretty powerful stuff. Okay, that does it for our research, writing, and edit section. Let's dive right back into our presentation. There we go. Okay. Finally, once you've completed writing and editing your series, the next step, of course, is to compile it or to export it into a single document for publishing or maybe for sharing with beta readers and editors, whatever the case may be, whatever you need to do. Now, in Scrivener, this process is incredibly customizable. Many of you are likely familiar with compiling a single book from a single project in Scrivener, but what if you have multiple books within the same project? You might wonder, well, is compiling a series in Scrivener going to be really complex and tedious? Well, the answer is no. It's actually pretty straightforward and easy to do. You just have to learn how to do it. So Scrivener's flexible compile settings allow you to easily select which books and to include and determine their formatting in the final document. And of course, you can add and remove front and back matter from your project as needed if you so choose. All sorts of fun stuff you can do here. Now, of course, you could literally use the compiler to self-publish a book straight. You could get it all nice and put together in Scrivener, or you could get it out there and self-publish it as an EPUB, or you could export out of Scrivener, do formatting in Word, do formatting in another app. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you want to do you. But we're going to show you how to get this compiled and exported out very simply and easily today. So let's dive right in and let's do it. Okay, stop share. There we go. Bear with me, guys. Zoom is being finicky with me. Oh, come on. Where'd you go? There you are. Okay, there we are. Desktop one. Okay, we're back. Minimize that. Okay, so how do I get this compiled out? How do I share this and share this with others? Now, let's start with the one that's more technical, where we can see the actual structure here really well. How would I export this out? Let's look at it. Now, this isn't going to look great because there's nothing in it, but let's go ahead and click the compile button right here, top right corner. You can also go to File, Compile, or memorize that keyboard shortcut if you so choose. It's going to take us in here. You can see right here to our right, this kind of gives us the structure. This kind of gives us the layout, what we should expect our manuscript to look like when we're sending it out. And this is the formats we can choose from. We can actually even create our own formats if you're so inclined, or you can use and duplicate and edit some of the existing ones, or you can just use it as it exists. Now, if we select default, it's just going to do whatever formatting we currently have in Scrivener. Now, for the sake of simplicity, let's just choose Manuscript Times, which is just a manuscript style format with Times New Roman as the default font. Okay, so we have compile for. We're going to choose what we're compiling for. Now, you can see we have various options here. I imagine a lot of you will probably be sharing this with an editor or beta readers who are using Microsoft Word. So in that case, you'll probably want to just select Microsoft Word, add that option to export that out. You can, of course, send it as a PDF or something else, or rich text file, or maybe if you're using OpenOffice instead. Okay, you can see there is the EPUB option I was talking about. You can actually get an EPUB version out and potentially self-publish that. There are challenges associated with that I'm not going to go into today, but just be aware the option is there if you're willing to put in that work. Let's go ahead and select PDF. Just for the sake of simplicity, I can open up PDF files or documents tend to be a bit finicky because I don't have a good version of Word running here. And let's see here. Let's look at what we're looking at. So right now we have our series folder, and right now the series folder is behaving as a single book. We have book 1, book 2, book 3, etc. So how do I change this? How do I go about and fix this? Well, it turns out it's really easy. See right here where it says compile series folder, there's a little drop down menu here. Click that, select book 1, boom. There we go. Let me just click this treat compiled group as a complete manuscript. Voila. There it is. Part 1, chapter 1, etc. We can now export that out as a complete book. Okay. Just like that. Okay. So we can add front matter, back matter right here if we have any. Okay, you just gotta find the back matter section. You have, in this case, there is no back matter in this specific project, but you could go ahead and add it. And of course, if we want to remove anything, we can uncheck these boxes and remove them. Okay. Now I'm going to show you from this project right here. Works a little bit better because we actually got some stuff in here. Let's go ahead and do that because that's what I've been doing this entire time. Compile the option here, right? Like so. Oops. Oh, this mouse. I just used my trackpad here. We're going to go here to the Affinity Saga. And we are going to select book 1 right there. We're going to treat the compile group as a complete manuscript, and then we can just go ahead and click compile, and we're good to go. It will actually compile it out as a complete manuscript. Let's go ahead and just use the manuscript times format so we can see that. Mark with a shadow, export. There we go. Right there. There we go. Now, I didn't include any title page or anything like that, so it's just showing the prologue. I'd have to go in and add that information. I think I removed the front matter. Let's look at that real quick. No, yes, it's set to none, so I didn't have any front matter included. That's why. But very easily could have added a title page in there or something. I'd have to go find it. I don't know why it's turned off, but I have a lot going on here. Let's see if we can find it real quick. Series. This is what I'm talking about, where like when you have a lot in your project like I do here, it can be a little tricky for some of this stuff. It can take me a minute to find it. Where did I put that? Yeah. I'll have to look at that. Must be hidden in there somewhere. But you see, so little things like that where it might make more sense to have it in multiple projects versus just one. There can be minor complexities with that, but otherwise it's typically a really good choice to keep all of these in one place. So just so you know, there are pros, there are cons. I find that having it all together though is much better than having it all across screen, multiple projects or multiple places all over my computer. So the choice is yours. Okay, let's see if we're missing anything else here. Add, remove, front and back matter. Okay, yep. I think we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up right there. We'll jump into our Q&A with the last 20 minutes here. I have just a couple more slides to go over. Share that. Okay, let me pull up my notes. Okay, so here's some free resources for you. Of course, like today's, we have my free starter novel template. If it's going to load up here, there it goes. So if you'd like to get access to that, you can go to ogjevinson.com/links and click the free starter novel template and get access to that. That is a great resource. I didn't show it today. If anyone has questions about it, I can show you all about it. I normally do, but today I decided to go a different direction, just use that basic template. The one thing I liked about that, maybe I'll take a look at it here in just a minute, is that it does have a lot of that already set up for you, so I don't have to the series and everything, so I don't have to think about it later and set it all up myself every single time. In fact, that's usually the template I use. I don't use the regular built-in template anymore. We have our webinar library, where if you want to watch this webinar and all our past webinars, you can see them there ad-free. We have our user manuals, blog video tutorials available, those links. So check those out. We have tons of great resources. My point is, if you have any questions, you have any problems, reach out to us. Go out to these links. We'll get you taken care of one way or the other. And if you'd like to join, if you'd like to uh, get access to that, let's see here. It's being tricky. There we go. You can use that QR code there to go ahead and subscribe as well. Okay, let's talk about what's next. Okay, so we do have one more webinar this week for January. That's coming up this Friday. Come on. There we go. January 30th, 2026 at 2 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. UK. That's going to be talking about how we can craft a routine that actually works. And I've spent a lot of time refining this one. I've given a similar presentation in the past, but as I've been working on my own routine and growing and learning, I've added some new things. So I think you'll be really excited to see what I've got this Friday. I'm excited. I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay. So that leaves us with our Q&A. The floor is open. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. I'll go ahead and jump in the Q&A and see what we got. And of course, if you have any questions we can't get to, there are our email addresses right there: Scrivener/Mac, Scrivener/Win, Scrivener/Mobile, and Scapple at literatureandlatte.com. You can also reach me directly at contact@ogevanson.com if you have a question specific to me. Happy to help where I can. Okay, let me dive right in here and see if I can see the Q&A in the chat, what we've got going on here. Okay, Q&A. Pulling that down here. And chat. Oh, come on, chat. There we go. Okay, so we got some questions here. So Martin's asking, I finished the draft of my first book and have a tale of material like characters and timelines. Can I set out the following books in this folder? The tale. Okay, so that's a good question. I'm hoping I'm understanding you. So you finished the first draft of your book, and I'm not sure about the I have a tale of materials like characters and timelines. So if you have a bunch of those and they're in the draft, I would pull those out of the draft and put them in separate folders in your research folder, in the characters folder, in the places folder, in the time, if you have a timeline folder, create a timeline folder, plot folder, whatever you want to call it. So I would put those in separate documents in separate places in your project. And even for your draft folder, for your new draft, I usually like to duplicate my draft. I'll actually stick one in a drafts folder. And then, so I'll duplicate the entire draft. That could be like, 100,000 words or more or whatever. I put it in a different folder for safekeeping. And then I now can then feel free to edit the new version without any concern that I'm going to lose anything. So hopefully that helps you there. Barb is asking, is there an easy way to combine existing project documents into new book folders you create in a series project? Yes, there is. Let me show you real quick. So if we wanted to bring in an existing project, let me share my screen here. Hopefully I can just switch over here like so. Is that working? Okay, yep. So I'm going to move my chats over here. I know you guys can't see them, but they're right here in front of me. Is there an easy way to combine existing project documents into new books and book folders you create in a series project? So there's a couple of different ways we can look at this. Let's pull these out here and let's make them small like so. Okay. Now I can take things from one project to another really easily. So for example, if I wanted to bring a bunch of my series research into a new project or an old project or wherever the case may be, I can drag and drop that over like this. Okay. And there it is. Now it's in here. All the stuff is there in my new project here. Likewise, if I had some existing things I wanted to pull in from a different project into another, I can bring it in, just drag and drop it in like so. Okay. Another thing I can do, let's say I want to bring everything from Project Titan into the Otter and the Amulet. That would be really easy to do too. I would just go click where I want it to go to File, Import, Scrivener project. I'd find the Scrivener project in Windows Explorer or in my Finder, and it would just import everything to wherever I have selected in my binder here. And that would make that really quick and easy to just get that in, and I could then organize it and do whatever I need to in the new project. So great question, Barb. Like that one. Okay, Lynn's asking general question. How do you generate a synopsis from the inspector info? Okay, so if we were to go to, let's close this up real quick. here. So if we go to let's just go to the Infinity Saga here. Let's go to prologue, right? So our synopsis right here, okay, in our inspector, okay. So we could, I wouldn't say generate, you can write a synopsis there. So I'm a pantser. In most cases, I will write the entire first draft before I actually go and do any sort of outlining. Um, it's kind of a wash whether I do that. Sometimes I'm back and forth. I try different things, but typically that's kind of what I've kind of leaned towards doing. And I'll come back in Scrivener. I'll actually reread the chapter or listen to it, and then I'll write out a summary of based on like what I think is going on in that chapter. Looks like I got two of them here. Yeah, let's just, oops. But then I just come here and I just write that down. Okay. Like so. Okay. And I think you can also do that in the corkboard view. So let's go to mark of the shadow. Let's click our corkboard. We could come in here and also uh, double click and write in our synopsis directly, not in the inspector, but right here in our corkboard view, either from the arrange by label view or just in our regular default corkboard view like this. Okay. Great question. Okay, Jonathan's asking if you do use a multiple project file approach, one series Bible file plus one project per book, are there any issues down the road with using project and page links between the different book files to be referencing easier? For example, will compilation be trickier? Okay, let's see here. Are there any issues down the road with using a project? Uh, that's a good question. Jonathan, I would say there could be. I mean, if you're anytime there's hyperlinks involved, there could be some challenges there, especially if you're working across multiple projects. You can, like, for example, I can come in here and copy a document link if I can find it here. Copy document link, and then I could use that link in different projects and things like that. You can also create your own table of contents and things. It all depends on like what you're going to do. It could make your compilation trickier depending on what you are trying to do. However, it can also vastly simplify your compile because if you just got one book per project and your series Bible is its own project all in itself, you just can work in that project. That project is going to compile out like a regular manuscript. You're not going to have to deal with different manuscripts or switching things around. So you just kind of have to pick which challenges you want to have. Okay. And it's hard to say, it's hard to look in the future and say, oh, you might run into this and this and this and this. There could be multiple things you could run into. My recommendation is if you run it, just choose one, whichever one you think is going to work best for you. Trial and error. And of course, if you run into any problems, reach out to us directly. We'll help you out and get your problem solved for you as best we can. Okay. Sorry, some of these questions I'm trying to consider the context. Uh, what is the name of the overview of with all various? Okay, well, Jenica's asking about the various statuses of the Infinity Saga with labels and the amount of words. She says it doesn't recall seeing that in the Windows version. So that was the outliner. Okay, is what that was. Okay, maybe I can show that real quick. Let's click the Infinity Saga here. Okay. And let's go to the outliner right there. So you can see I do have it broken up into various different metadatas I can view from. So I have the total progress, how close I am to being finished with it. It's not entirely accurate because I haven't added in additional things here for uh, other chapters. Okay. We can see here uh, like the names, right? The titles of each document, folder, chapter, scene, etc. The labels. I use labels to keep track of point of view characters. So I'm going to see different points of views. Labels are right here in the inspector. That's also available on PC. Status, same kind of thing. We have all my statuses. You can edit your status list to include different types of statuses. I've gone all the way up to draft 6. Speaking of which, I have to change that to draft 6. um, Plot beats. This is a custom list I added myself for all the beats for Save the Cat, so I can keep track of my beats or plot points in my story. I'm also experimenting with different plots and subplots, giving them more specific names rather than just like Catalyst and just the names for the plot beats. I want to dig a little deeper and try this out. This one's kind of experimental. I'm still testing out to see whether I like it or not. Of course, here I also have total words and total target, and we can come here right click, and we can add any sort of wonderful things. If you're wondering how to add in the custom ones, I have covered that in other webinars. If people really want to see how to do it, I can probably demonstrate it, but there is a little bit more involved to adding your own custom elements. But there are tons of great existing elements or metadata that you can grab right here in the outliner. Great question. Shannon, let's see here. Is there a template I can use that creates all the folders for a book, chapter, scene, characters, locations, etc.? There's not one built into Scrivener that does it. I do have my story novel template I may have mentioned earlier. In fact, I did mention. Sorry. Let me go ahead and answer that one. And just send me an email or go to ojevanson.com/links. You can get the story novel template right there really easily. If you have any questions how to get it set up, getting it installed, blah, blah, blah. It's really easy to do. It includes all the instructions and it's free. So I highly recommend you check it out. Maybe we'll look at it just real quick so you can kind of see what it is and make sure that it's something you really would want. Okay. Let's go to File, New Project here. Here's the starter novel template. Double click it. I'm just going to give it untitled for now because we want to be quick. So basically, just kind of has the about this template, tells you about how it works. Here has our series title here, book one already in it. Even has it broken up into acts if you so choose, chapters, scenes, etc. Okay. And what's really cool too is I have a bunch of templates here. So I have like a chapter template you can use, a book template. So if you wanted to just quickly add in a new book template, chapter template, just like that. Boom, done. So hopefully that'll help you get started. Okay, so Alexander's asking, so what is your revision key folder for? Let's look at that. It's been a minute since I've looked at that. And what I was using it for was to keep track of like different color revisions and things like that. So I have character revision was more uh, red based, plot was blue, setting and world building was green, spelling and grammar was this kind of yellowish gold, and purple was dialogue. Okay, and so I could just come up to revision mode here. Okay, project format, revision mode, and then choose the different colors. Okay, and then I would just go through and make changes with that. So that's what my revision key folder is for. I think I also had some unplaced chat. Oh, this is like the old book, way, way old. I was looking at unplaced chapters, some overviews of the book, chapter revisions I had done, some analysis I had run on it as well. I think these analysis was run by per writing it actually. I was really impressed with per writing its analysis of my book. It identified some things that I was aware that were problematic with my book, and also some things I wasn't aware that were problematic with my book. And I still highly recommend you get a human editor, but this was a really great thing if you can get this kind of use this tool from the get-go and identify all the key problems. It makes it really easy to not waste time on those problems, get them fixed, and that way when you actually give it to a real editor, they can then identify some other, hopefully all the major concerns have been resolved. And so I just kind of had a folder there to keep track of all my revision documents and things like that. That's where Alexander. Great question. Good question. Okay, see Ruth is answering that one, but I will just mention it. Is there any file size limit for a project with multiple books? No, there isn't. Scrivener doesn't have a file size limit. That said, I'd encourage you to keep them as small as you can. Large files, tend to, with backing up, for example, when you back up your project, and Scrivener does that automatically for you, it does copy and compress the whole contents. The larger the file, the more longer time it takes to compress, the longer time it takes to copy, and it can increase the time it takes to back up your project. So I do try to keep them small, but it is a good idea to keep them small if you can, but there really is no size limit. I've only seen problems. In fact, I have several projects that are several gigabytes worth of data, and haven't had much problem. I've only seen problems maybe past like 10 gigabytes or more. And usually there's a lot you can do about that. It's usually like research files, videos, audio files, things that you could reasonably remove if you didn't need to. Okay, perfect. Great. Let's see here, Sandra. If you're looking for this, you can just go to ojdavidson.substack.com. That's what that QR code goes to. William's asking, will you be putting your toolbox template on sale soon? Good question. I'm currently not. I'll be honest, I'm really behind in all that fun stuff. All my templates and things. So if you're interested in that, William, send me an email. I'll see what I can do for you. I think you may have sent me an email already. If you have, I apologize. I have like 300 some emails I have not been able to get to. So bear with me. I am going through them. It's just taking me some time. Appreciate that. Brie asks, how do you t tend to go about outlining the management arcs from a series view versus a book view? Where do you personally tend to start? Um, I'll be honest, I typically just start with book one. Like this for this book, for example, here, we didn't know the co-writer and I didn't know exactly how long we wanted it to be. Initially, we wrote the first draft, we wrote several drafts of this first draft, and it changed frequently from the beginning to now. It's honestly a completely different book. It's not even the same book anymore. Um, but as we did that, we actually spent like I think a good solid 2 to 3 months trying to outline the entire series. All from book one, we decided we wanted to be a 5 book arc, and book one to book five. Now, some advice that I've received or I have researched and studied from the Save the Cat plot method, if you're familiar with that, is that you can actually apply that same method to the entire series. So you might consider like book one is like the opening image. And then book two and book three, maybe they're more setup based, theme stated setup. And then we have like, let's see what else we got here. Cat, like maybe book one is like opening image to cat, and it's the catalyst, right, for the whole series. Then we have book two is like set up, break into two, fun and games, book three, book four, wherever you're at, you're gonna have to kind of break up this structure for your series. Now you don't want to hit every beat for the series. You want to mainly look at the five foundational beats. Okay. In this case, we're looking at catalyst, break into two, midpoint, uh, all is lost, dark night of the soul kind of thing, and break it to three, and then the final image, right? So somewhere around those lines. I know I just mentioned more than five, but I can't remember what the exact five foundational beats are. But along those lines, we're looking for the big moments that the series, for the series arc that it's going to cover. I'm going to look at all across from the beginning to end, and it's helpful if you know where you're going to, right? So you don't have to outline every little thing, but just having some general big points and making sure that those points work for you, you're happy with them, you like what they are, then you can kind of figure out what goes in between. That's kind of how we've been approaching it. We've changed a lot even since we've done the series outline. We'll probably go back again and change that again. So, uh, yeah, hopefully that gets you going, where you're going, outlining, imagining arcs. I like using my labels and different things to get me going here and keep me on, uh, keep my character arcs in track where I want them to be. So yeah, hopefully that helps you. Sorry. I could go on and on. Let's see. Glenn's asking, let's see how we're doing on time. We got a couple minutes left. These are so many great questions. Um, I wish I could get to them all. We're gonna wrap up here in just a couple minutes. Glenn's asking, I plan on using Scrivener to write a Substack series. Would you set up the same way, run a series under a single project? Yeah, I most certainly would. In fact, I do. In Scrivener, I write all my blog posts and all my newsletters and blah blah blah. Typically from the same Substack project. I call it my platform project, the author platform project, and so and my turn writers and authors project. I have two separate platforms, two separate projects. They're very different in terms of what they do and the type of audience they serve. And so yeah, I'll just have my chapters or my series or my scenes or my posts or whatever however you're breaking it up, my newsletters, and I'll just write them and structure them like that. And so I'll probably come in, I'll have like I have like a post page and um just put all the posts I'm going to be writing for the next month or whatever, or maybe just the ideas I have. It's a work in progress. But yes, that's kind of how I've been handling it, just running the series or the Substack series in a single project. In fact, like I said, I keep my whole platform. Everything I do for my turning writers and the authors website, platform, everything all goes in that project. I just find it. I did have it in multiple places. So recently, actually this week, I've been focusing on consolidating because I just couldn't keep track of everything. It's just too much when you have it all spread out. But so now that I've kind of put it all together and I've really took some time to organize it, it's been so much simpler. I know what I'm going to work on next precisely, and I know I'm not wondering, did I leave something else in some other project on accident? I didn't forget. It's all there now. I love that. Okay, well, we are at time, guys. I love these questions. I wish I could get them all down. It's incredible. I love to hear your questions. So why don't we do this? I still have access to these questions. If there's anything you really, really needed help with, you really wanted to ask me, please send me the email. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll do my best to get to those as quick as I can. I'll try to prioritize them. Let me see here. And of course, if you want to watch this again, you can watch the replay. I'll get that posted to YouTube shortly. Let me drop in my links here real quick so everybody has that. Maybe if I can grab it. Oh, it's not here. I'm just gonna go with, let's type it in ojms.com/links. Okay. So go to that. Hopefully that works. Let me click it. Make sure it still works. Maybe. Go to that. You can get all the things you need there right there. If you have any questions for me, there you go. Right there. I have contact@ojevanson.com to reach out to me directly. And of course, these other emails, if it's more Scrivener related, you have some really specific questions and need some help. The other emails, they're going to be able to get you quick help a lot quicker than me. So thank you so much, everyone. Stay warm. This has been a freezing cold winter. Hope you all have a wonderful week. If the snow is there, I hope it melts soon and you're not stranded wherever you're at. Thank you so much. I will see you all on Friday. So if you haven't registered, make sure you get registered for Friday session. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay. See you then. Okay. Bye.